I'm just going to give the mic over to David Thompson, and we're going to go right into Captain America Civil War.
Oh, boy, ladies and gentlemen. Thomas, I don't know how you want to do this, but here we go. We've got Captain America Civil War. I hope you guys can hear me okay out there.
You're jumping in and out, but it's okay.
Oh, am I? Okay.
Yeah.
Here, let's try.
Just go straight through.
Hopefully things can get a little better now.
Honestly, you know what? Let's do it like this, David. Because ladies and gentlemen, we're doing it live right now. We're live. You're behind the scenes with Lights, Thunder, Action because we've had technical difficulties. If you're just joining us, David's laptop is dead. It did itself in. It didn't want to survive for the party that is Civil War. It didn't want to handle the Civil War between David and I. I really want to see your screen time breakdown that you have, and then we'll go Team Iron Man, Team Cap, and then we'll go into WandaVision notes. Because that's the point of this entire discussion is Wanda and Vision and their journey to WandaVision. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, sounds good. I liked I found the screen time just because people always argue that this is an Avengers movie, not a Captain America movie. And the screen time kind of reflects that. So Chris Evans is number 1 at 38 minutes and 15 seconds. Robert Downey Jr., to no one's surprise, is just 1 minute under at 37 minutes and 15 seconds. And then Sebastian Stan's significantly under. It's crazy to think, like, Scarlett Johansson has 12 minutes of screen time in this movie. Seems it's just a lot more. Anthony Mackie only has 11. Zemo himself only has 10 minutes and 10.5 minutes in this movie of screen time. This is crazy to think to me. So anyway, but if you like, it's Captain America Civil War. It's Captain America and Iron Man Civil War. They run the show. It is their movie together. According to the screen time anyway. And like it's in the story, like there is no Civil War if it's not for Iron Man and we get it from the very beginning, right? Like we get that opening with Bucky, and then which is a Captain America story, and then we go straight to Iron Man using Barf and getting more of his backstory, which we don't know at the time.
No, we don't. We go 91 right into Lagos, and then we jump.
Oh, right. Sorry. Yeah, right. So we get the action scene of Captain America, of course, and then back to Iron Man, and we don't know at the time, but that opening and then Iron Man's introduction are very intertwined. So here's my thing, right? I'm Team Iron Man. Obviously, today's not completely about just breaking this down beat by beat, but here are some reasons why. First off, Spider-Man, of course. Spider-Man's on Team Iron Man, so of course I'm on Team Iron Man. I know you love that, Thomas. So here's a few things that I took notes of. The scene where it's after the whole chase scene with T'Challa and Winter Soldier and Cap, and they've got him, right. They're now like under arrest, like Falcon and Captain America and everything. And it's just Cap and Tony in that room, and Tony's breaking out the pens and all that, and he's just saying, and they're trying to make amends. What I wrote is that it's really good. They're just really good friends who see things differently, and it's so true. Like you see at the beginning of this movie, or at the beginning of that scene. I'm sorry, like they're great friends, and they're just trying to catch up. And Steve asks about Pepper, and they get that connection, and like he explains, like, oh no, we're during a break. It's just so sad to see. Like that's what the movie's so great, right? Is that you see they are really good friends, but this just fundamental difference of opinion. And a lot of it, what's great about the MCU is a lot of it, both sides make sense from what we've seen of these characters so far. Iron Man screwed up like all these times, and he's like, it's more of like a self-responsibility thing where he's like, I would be irresponsible not to sign these. Like I have to be a part of this. I have to be for this because I've been the one messing up the biggest, and I have to be held in check. And so another point is, so basically on also just Team Iron Man, Team Cap. I'm Team Iron Man. But in all honesty, I see both sides when it comes to the Accords, because they both make good points. You know, all this destruction's happening. Someone like Wanda, you know, out in the field, you could see where the government or people would be like, that's just scary, and especially after the law goes. But the thing is, then when the multiple Winter Soldier threat appears, that kind of changes the movie. I remember watching the first time, like, oh my gosh, like I did not expect that coming. When Bucky's like, oh, there's more. Like, that completely changed the movie. And looking back, I mean, the airport fighting scene is one of the best in the MCU because it's like hero on hero. Like, what gets better? But the stakes there aren't as high as maybe we thought going into that movie. Or maybe watching it the first time, because if you think about it, it's like Cap and all them, they're just trying to leave. Like, they're just trying to get out of there. They're just trying to take off and go. And they would want Iron Man, all of them, to come join them. Like, that in that moment, it's like we need them, but they can't reach out because of everything happening with the Accords. Iron Man, on the other hand, is trying to bring Rogers in because he's, you know, an outlaw. He's an outlaw. Bucky at that point has busted free and all this. So, like, that's a big part of the movie is just Steve defending Bucky and, like, trying to protect him. But here we go. Like, so to me, at that point, the movie kind of changes from Team Iron Man, Team Cap in a way. But then the biggest point of why I'm Team Captain, or why I'm Team Iron Man, almost slipped there. Why I'm Team Iron Man is Cap knew that a brainwashed Bucky killed Iron Man's parents. He knew, and he didn't ever tell, and he even tries to lie in the scene. He like hesitates. He doesn't even want to say it. He doesn't even say it. Initially, there's a hesitation there, and just I can't not root for Captain. I mean, I'm kind of on Iron Man's side all the way through, just because I kind of see the point of perspective from the Accords more than just Captain America being like, no, like it is like, no, I will not do this. I refuse. It's just he just won't. The line that always gets me, that I will always love and make me so Team Iron Man, is, I don't care, he killed my mom. And it's just boom, we're off and they're fighting. And we get the epic fight scene at the end, which is awesome and one of the best MCU moments from storytelling perspective and an action perspective. But just the line of, I don't care, he killed my mom. Like, I don't care if he's random, it wasn't him, blah, blah. You know, you can have your opinions on whatever, like, when it comes to Cap, like, Team Iron Man, Team Cap, but in that moment, it's just like, yes, like, I do not care. He killed my mom. Like, you're going to kick his ass. Like, that's just what it is. And you can't, and Steve can't be like, at that point, Steve cannot think, oh, like, what do you mean, Tony? Like, this was okay. Like, I'm sorry. Like, no, like, come on. You cannot defend those actions. Even though it wasn't him, obviously. I don't know. I'm Team Iron Man. I'm not going to make the biggest argument when it comes to the Accords, because both sides are right in some ways. But that's the point of the story, is that some parts are wrong. And the Accords in general, I know this is an anti-Team Iron Man thing. The Accords are not right. You know, that's not what should be happening. It's just the concept of agreeing to them, and it just thinks the movie makes it. I think it actually, like, a quick point. I want to hear all the way up to Thomas. A quick point of how the story is untold, as a kind of a critique, is just how quickly it goes from they are the Avengers and their private organization to boom, suddenly it is you sign the Accords or it's over. That's really quick for me, and it's like I don't like that part. You know, it should be. You know, this movie, I think it couldn't have been two movies, but it would have been better if it had been a more of a struggle, like, and more of a why we have to all of a sudden be criminals. You know what I mean? So those are kind of my thoughts. Team Iron Man, Team Spidey, of course.
On that last point, dude, look at 2020 alone. The fact. The movie, it happens over what, a course of a week, right?
Yeah.
Let's look at America really fast and go, oh, okay, yeah, choose or die. That's exactly like my only counterpoint to you is, although yeah, it like really sucks and yeah, it happens fast and you hate that. In understanding the political climate of America or any other part of the world ever, it's exactly how it would go down. It would be do or die, especially with how like this movie, I don't know, screw the movie itself. That point in time is so monumental. Like so many things fell in line for it to happen. You have the Lagos thing while he's already trying to get Bucky the information on Bucky. So then it leads to the Accords, which then gets him the beautiful point of coming up and going, oh, by the way, I can frame this guy during this thing for something else while they're already kind of in a weird, tumultuous point, which is why Zemo is top 3 greatest villains of all time. And I might have moved Killmonger. I might have moved Killmonger out only because I don't like, and this is why I don't like Killmonger's methods, because it's America's methods and it really pisses me off. That's a point we'll come to in a moment. I don't like subterfuge. But like on your points, I agree. Like my points for this movie really is like, let me just talk about Iron Man really quick before we go into like the team stuff. Charlie Spencer is the final push and payoff for the turn of Tony Stark being entirely selfless, like truly selfless. And it's the official ego death of Tony Stark, which then becomes the culmination or the building to the culmination of Endgame. Like that scene, as soon as it happens, you see it a snap and he goes, she's right.
Yeah.
Like, I thought I was doing something right. And at the end of the day, I got these people killed. And that's something I've been trying to grapple and come to terms with since since Iron Man, but really the Avengers film, when he had that PTSD and he still has it and he has to battle it his own way. But that's a trigger that he's never been able to get rid of. And that's his push to signing the Accords. And I understand that. I disagree with his backing of the Accords, but my reasons will be made clear in a moment. My other major note for Team Iron Man is Spidey is always saving people while they're being flung through the air. I just loved that so much. He saves and then he saves like all the Guardians, and then in Endgame he saves the Gauntlet. It's just it's one of my favorite Spidey like thing. I love Spider-Man. He's my favorite, or my first Marvel character. Not my favorite anymore, but like I love it. Now let's dive deep into like the crux of our debate. The best part of this movie is that both sides are 100% unequivocally correct. They are.
You're right.
Tony's not wrong. From his personal experience, we have to have accountability, because if we don't, we're no better than the bad guys. You're right.
Right.
Like, I can't argue that. You're right.
Exactly.
100%. Does he choose a very shitty avenue to hash it out by punch first, ask forgiveness later? Yep. I agree with Cap, which I'm about to get to in a moment. Does he choose a very shitty avenue of hashing it out, which is punch first, ask forgiveness later? Yep. That's what makes this movie so so good, and B, so heartbreaking.
Yeah.
It is. This movie is created to build up just to rip your heart out.
Yeah.
And without this movie, Phase 3 doesn't succeed. I don't think that's a very large hill to die on, in all honesty, because without the Avengers crumbling, you don't get the single story movies of just Doctor Strange and Thor Ragnarok, which isn't even that, like, it's so standalone, but it's also in space, which we get a little, do you know where Thor and Banner are? If I lost a couple 30 megaton newts, dude, they're fucking people. Thunderbolt Ross, which we'll get to in a moment. I hate him so much. We'll get to him in a moment. We'll get there. Thunderbolt, it's happening. But let me just dive into why I am Team Cap, not just with the Accords, but I will defend Cap's failures later in the movie. Listen, Thunderbolt has this line that they routinely ignore sovereign borders to inflict their will wherever they choose, and who, frankly, seem unconcerned about what they leave behind. Then he goes into New York, Washington, D.C., Sokovia. He goes through all of them. Rant time. The government's logic is we owe you a great debt, but we will choose who and what your missions are because we are too afraid of you and we are afraid of what you're capable of. Also, we're not going to say this, but we're also going to profit off of you by increasing taxes and then tell you what you can or cannot do, and that you cannot go save people because they, although they are innocent human beings and they do deserve to live, they live in a country that are enemies of the state. Okay, bro. That's why I hate Thunderbolt Ross. That's why I've been on this whole the Thunderbolts will happen, because it starts in that scene because he cannot control the Avengers. But if he can control criminals through blackmail, a.k.a. Amanda Waller, a.k.a. Task Force X, a.k.a. the mother effing Thunderbolts, baby, that's what's going to happen. 100%. So, he has a couple of other lines that we're going to ignore. The airport scene, I agree, is pure, absolute, nothing but candy. But it does, which my favorite part of this fight is it gives all these other characters an idea of what the other characters' abilities and strategic advances are on an enemy. And I love that. Falcon and Hawkeye seeing the bigger picture in not just the jail scene, but a bunch of other places. You know, it's like, specifically, he's right. For us to win this fight, some of us are going to have to live. That makes me so excited to see their shows because of what they experienced after Infinity War and Endgame. That's going to make their storytelling amazing. Here's why I'm Team Cap. This might be a 2.5 to 3 minute exposition. In Steve's shoes, I would like to think I would have done things differently. I would have told Tony, listen, man, there's a chance that my childhood friend who's been brainwashed to become the Winter Soldier, he might have killed your parents. And I say might have because we'll get to that line you were talking about in a minute. Likely, though, I wouldn't have. I understand his position. He didn't know 100% that Bucky killed Howard Stark. But the evidence did point there aggressively. And you can hope and you can pray. But oftentimes, and I say you hope and you can pray that you're wrong and your assumptions are wrong, but oftentimes you already know the answer. And when your heart's already crushed that your best friend killed one of your other best friends at a time when you weren't even out of the icicle, you don't want someone else to feel even remotely the same that you feel. Now, that's why I'm Team Cap, because we've all been there. You can learn a lesson from Cap as be upfront and honest, even when you aren't sure that what the truth actually is. Again, I argue he didn't know 100% that Bucky killed his parents. But again, the evidence pointed there aggressively, like, hey-oh, here it is. You can learn a lesson from Iron Man that forgiveness is more powerful than vengeance. Need proof? Let me hit you with some T'Challa. Here's the balance between the two. He was on a vengeance mission, learns that it wasn't Bucky, although legit, it wasn't Bucky this time, as in not Bucky's body or not Bucky's soul. You know, makes it a little easier of, it's Helmut Zemo. But he moves on to ensure that justice is served. And he's also upfront with his failures right off the bat with Helmut Zemo, that I almost killed an innocent man. And the dead are not done with you yet. And it leads to Black Panther beautifully. And it leads to Killmonger beautifully because he tries to redeem Killmonger and it just doesn't happen. I get both sides, man. I really do. I've been on both sides of these arguments in different situations. And that's the beauty of this movie, man. It really does break your heart. It makes you recognize the shortcomings of Iron Man and of Cap. before they do. And you hope and pray that they get it together and come to terms with the issues at hand. And they don't in this movie. They don't in Infinity War. Hell, they really don't until midway through Endgame, which is like almost 4 years our reality of that happening. So here's my big major takeaway from this movie. And I have questions for you, David, that I love to answer before we get to WandaVision. This is my final takeaway. This could be the most underrated Marvel movie of the first 3 phases. Because when we think about it, like, oh my God, like a spectacle. Oh, it's Team Iron Man, it's Team Cap. But like when you sit down and you watch it and you live in it for a moment, it really doesn't get the credit it deserves for portraying Iron Man as being right about the Accords and portraying Cap as also being right about the Accords. And if you were in the position of Iron Man, if someone killed your family, I don't give a damn if he was my best friend. I'd beat them into a bloody pulp and make them wish. And this is the point where I'm on Team Cap, because Iron Man wanted to kill Bucky. I wouldn't want to kill the person. I'd want them to suffer on a level they never even dreamt of. I would make them suffer and their soul burn in effigy into their own minds as I dismember them mentally, physically, emotionally, psychologically, and make them understand the debts of their karma. If I were in Iron Man's shoes. But if I were in Cap's shoes, I would want to defend my friend to make sure he's not killed for something that he was not fully in control of, and to protect my friend from going down a path that, as we all know, leads to nothing but to self-despair and doubt and guilt. Because if Tony killed Bucky at the end of the day, would he have felt better? I think we can all agree, no. David, I have some questions for you. Because you are Team Iron Man. And I know that. And you argue, and your main argument was, I don't care, he killed my mom.
Yeah.
Are you okay with, Are you okay with everything Cap did other than not telling Tony?
Throughout the entire film?
Yes.
No. Here's the like you made some good points, and it's kind of the same thing where I just wish there had been more conversation about middle ground. It just didn't seem like there needed to be. I mean, well, we needed the movie, right? They had to push the plot and get to the moment. So it's like there needed to be more of a middle ground where it's like, and we even get the moment. I mean, the scene I referenced when they were talking, Cap was buying in until he realized that Wanda was locked up with Vision, and then he's like, "This is it, Tony. Like, are you kidding me? Like, you can't do this. This is like, you cannot do that. That is not right." So I just wish there had been more middle ground. But
later,
no,
Tony's buying in until it's like, "Oh, he killed my mom," and like it's the same thing. It's flipped. Like that's the beauty of this movie. Please continue.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's the emotional ties, and I just think Cap was a bit too like, oh, I'm going to take my team and we're going to do it this way. When I just think Tony wasn't he wasn't trying to be, in my opinion, like that outrageous. He just was conforming to what the reality was and was doing what he thought was right. And Cap just wouldn't have it, and he wouldn't sign, and he wouldn't hear anything about it. So I just thought it pushes the story forward and makes it a better movie, I think. But it just seemed like there should have been more of middle ground met between the both of them. And I think Cap is wrong for him trying to punch his way out of it in the airport scene. When I think about it. Like when Tony figures out about the new Winter Soldier stuff, and I know there's a bit of an explanation, but it's Cap's explanation is pretty lackluster. He's not really, he's there fully suited, got his whole team going. We know there's like a diversion going where we have Ant-Man on the shield and everything. So it's like, all right, he was planning to fight his way out anyway. I think there could have just been more communication, like in anything in life.
Real.
But I guess my point is just that I thought like Cap was once he got into that mode of it's me versus them and my team versus like the government, it just stuck that way. And I think they could have called Cap, or I think they could have called Iron Man, sorry, when it's like, this could have been a lot easier a week ago. Like, I don't know. I think there could have been a world where they're like, General Ross, like, here's all this evidence, you know? Like, here's all the evidence. Why does this happen? Like, I get where now they're criminals or whatever, but it could have been like a, hey, this is a bigger than us sort of situation. We need to go take care of this. And also, I didn't point this out. You did earlier before we get like WandaVision and stuff. Zemo is an awesome villain. It's even more impressive when you see the runtime, which isn't even that much. It's like 10 minutes. He is an awesome villain. I can't wait to see him back in Falcon Winter Soldier. He is. I mean, he's just a puppet master, and is a great villain with no action. He just is like playing the cards and wants to destroy them. Like, and he does it brilliantly.
You can argue he's actually the hero of this movie. Because let's be honest, like let's be real. We as human beings, we're not Cap, we're not Iron Man, we're not these larger than life. We're just a guy or a girl who's been through some shit, and the world keeps continually crapping on you. And what did he do? He took his skills, he took his intelligence, and he went and he found a path, and he went down that path to tear down Titans, not by overpowering them, but by making them fight themselves.
Yeah.
That's an allegory for America for the last 153 years, I think. But we're not going to go that far into psychology. I agree with you on that. You're like Cap's against it, but you got to look at it from Cap's perspective. He was American man, right? He goes into the ice. He comes out. Oh, I'm a shield man. Oh, shield's been lying to me and creating weapons of mass destruction with the very thing that Nazis and Hydra were using. Okay, whatever. I'm going to work with you because I don't know anything else. Oh, you've been lying to me. Oh, everyone I've been working with is Hydra. Oh, cool. So the people I was supposed to trust, I can no longer trust. Let's go down this path where I only trust Black Widow and Falcon. Very important. Oh, then we go into Ultron, and then Thor doesn't tell him stuff. Iron Man lies to him about Ultron. Banner lies to him. Widow lies to him. Everyone is lying to him, and he's like, well, it's no longer what it used to be. I can't trust anybody. And then, of course, at that same moment, he does lose Peggy, and then he's told a line, which I didn't want to bring this up, but I think that line that Sharon Carter tells the world, that Peggy told her, is a line that actually will come from Captain America, that he told her when she was going through her trials and tribulations in the Shield because of Endgame. And I have a question that I'm going to save for next week when we get through Endgame, because there's no way we're not going to talk about the entire movie of Endgame and only talk about the 15 minutes of Wanda. And that is the whole, why do people hate Captain America, his arc in Endgame, and this entire movie explains why. David, let's go through your notes on Wanda and Vision, because we have some similarities, but we also have some stuff that is different.
Okay. Yeah. So first things first for me is Wanda's accent is way better in this one than in Ultron, in my opinion. It's toned down and it's better performed by Olsen. It's great. It sounds like in Ultron, it sounded like she was trying too hard, or they were like directing her to make it too strong. It's way better in this one. It's subtle and it's good. But it's there enough where you're like, okay, you like get she's from Sokovia. All right, so here's kind of my order. Vision phases straight through Wanda's wall into her room, and it's not the first time, because she's like, Viz, like, we talked about this, which is so funny to me, and just a little bit of their relationship. Also, she calls him Viz, which is awesome. And I remember the first time watching in theaters, I'm like, oh yeah, this is great. And then in this one part when they're talking about the Accords, and one is like, you're saying they'd come for me, and Vision immediately turns and is like, we protect you. We would protect you. And you just get it. And then later when they're when you realize that she's kind of bunkered up in this house with Vision, he's making the paprikash or whatever, and he doesn't know how to taste or anything, and it's terrible. And here's something else that I thought was really important. I said a sad but interesting line with the context we know now. He says, who knows? One day I could even control it. Talking about the Mind Stone, because he's like, I don't really know what this is. You know, they give you your powers and it does all these things. And we know that Wanda ends up destroying it, and he never really controls it like that or gets the opportunity to. And it's really interesting.
I've got a note on this same scene, that same point, the right before that. Really, he's like, I don't know what this is. You can tell he's troubled that he does not know, like we were talking in Soul, why am I alive? Like that's all
Right.
he wants. You know, he's an existential trying to understand the meaning of his life.
Right.
And he's like, I just want to understand it. Maybe I can control it. Like, and that's the whole point of Soul in a way. And I don't think that this little nugget is going to change. I think he'll be the first person to notice something is wrong in WandaVision because she's going to remember that part of his personality. And even though he is technically dead,
Yeah.
she's going to remember him as he was. And because they are linked through the Mind Stone, it's going to be a very, very true interpretation of Vision. So I think and if we look in the trailers, even Wanda is like, oh my God, life is good. And Vision is like, something's wrong here.
Right.
So I think that's a big clue for WandaVision.
Yeah.
That's the only Vision point of this entire film. But you go.
Yeah. There's that fun moment when, Wanda ultimately realizes she's kind of being in hostage, and Vision's like, alternatively, we could order a pizza. Like, kind of thinking, like, what's something that a human would say that'd be that's not going to give up his cover.
Yeah.
And I love this line. Wanda's like, what do you want? Like basically, it's like what's best for her, and Vision goes, for people to see you as I do. Like, well, that's all he really wants, and he means the best in what he's doing. He thinks he's right. He's not trying to hold her hostage. He's just trying to protect her, protect people. He's just trying to let it kind of blow over. And I'm sure he likes being with her too. So when Clint comes to rescue Wanda, finally, Wanda hesitates. It's not just like, oh, bye. She doesn't want to at first. She's not like just running to Clint. Wanda can make Vision powerless through the stone. That's a very pivotal point to me, where like she uses her powers, and you can see it like connects to the stone in his head, and that makes him like powerless. And then she absolutely buries Vision. Just mounds and mounds of like the house or whatever, the ground, just absolutely destroys him. And then I noted here, I guess we know who wears the pants in the family.
Literally.
Yeah, literally. So at the end of the airport scene, now jumping forward, because there's like what we're getting of Wanda and Vision this episode, or this movie, is kind of like split up.
It's like 20 minutes of them each, right?
Yeah,
Total,
it's even less than that. Yeah, like total.
Yeah.
Vision and Wanda apologize, and Vision goes, "It is as I said, catastrophe." When they're referencing back earlier, them fighting together, and it's it's funny seeing them on different sides of on the two different teams.
Mm-hmm.
And then so the big moment is that Vision is distracted by Wanda, which he admits to later, that he's like, I became distracted, which is like, not supposed to ever happen because he's an android, and that's pivotal, right? Because it's like shows that he can have feelings and he can be distracted like that. He's distracted, misses Sam, hits Brody. Obviously, you know what happens with that. And then I wrote what should have happened if he hadn't gotten distracted. Easily, Vision just flies up there and could have easily neutralized Sam, and Tony and Brody could have caught up with Steve and Bucky, but love. So he got distracted. He's talking to Wanda. He just shoots the laser beam when he easily could have just flown up there. But, oh well, life happens. And Brody got the short end of the stick on that one.
Yeah, one of my questions that I just kind of neglected to ask, because I know it'll lead, because there's been arguments online. Do you think Rhodey passed out while he was falling after the dead stick? Because I watched it again today, and I had that thought in my mind. Or did he close his eyes and just welcome what was about to happen because he knew the statistics of it? Because
I thought he passed out.
See, it's made to be that he passed out, but let's be real. Like, if Tony Stark doesn't pass out doing that same fall from a higher height, how would, and he says it, like, what is it? Like 400 flights or something. He says like the amount of flights he's had and never had an issue.
Right.
I think he's like, Tony. And then he goes, okay, this is about to happen. And he closes his eyes. I think he's like, okay, I have to accept this because there's nothing he can do. And he realizes that he's intelligent enough. My headcanon is he didn't pass out. He was, because Rhodey has always been ahead of the curve on Tony. Even at the end of this movie, he's ahead of the curve. Even in Infinity War, he's still ahead of the curve of Tony on acceptance and understanding. And I think he closes his eyes and goes, this is happening. We just have to accept what's about to happen to us because there's nothing we can do. And radical acceptance. My thoughts for the Wanda and the Vision. I've already said my one thing on Vision. So here it is. Here's the big points that I caught from this movie. Number one, I'm going to keep it simple. The powers we see from Wanda in this movie, she creates a force field of for bullets and the such. She's able to fly in a way. She controls matter by pulling the gas out and controlling the explosion to an extent.
Yeah.
She controls matter, and she can control not just the Mind Stone, but Vision's entire power set. But here's my favorite. This isn't really anything that I already haven't mentioned. Cannonball Special. And if you're a fan of the X-Men, you're going to understand what that means. If you're not, go watch Civil War. Go Google Cannonball Special. It brought the biggest, dumbest smile to my face. But I have two more points. Wanda doesn't get a win in any appearance. She never wins. She literally loses all the time. Need proof? Ultron loses Pietro. The beginning of this film, the Lagos incident. Then she gets locked up. She can't control it all, right? Infinity War kills Vision. She has to.
Yeah.
Only for it to
amazing scene.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking. Only for it to get reversed and be undone anyway.
Infinity War is like the best movie for Wanda and Vision. It's so good. And it's brief, but it's such a good setup for what's to come.
Yeah. And then
next week.
Endgame, exactly. In an Endgame, she doesn't kill Thanos.
Right.
I have no idea who you are. You will.
Yeah.
Not really. Sheesh, right? Like that?
Yeah.
That sucks. Like this is pointing to her being a villain, in my opinion. Like it 100% points to her being a villain. And when you think about her versus Thor, like no one's lost as much as Wanda. And people are like, oh, look at Thor. When you look at Thor, look at his lifespan. His lifespan is not like 30 years of being alive like Wanda. That's rough, dude. I'm not even 30 and I've been through. I mean, I haven't had to kill people and I haven't been the reason of people dying, right? But I've still lost like most of my family to death in some way. And that changes you. So then it brings me to this last point, the most important line of this entire movie that sets up WandaVision perfectly. She's like, I'll leave. And Vision says, I can't let you. My first thought, you can't stop her. But then she says, I can't control their fear. Only my own.
Yeah. Really good line.
If that isn't all of the tea for WandaVision. Like.
That's a great point. Yeah, I wish I'd actually thought of that. That's really good.
Yeah, man. It hit me and I was like, oh my God. Granted, I'd already looked at I'll be fair. I did watch it today and I'd already seen all of David's notes myself. So I was like, all right, let me try and pull some different stuff. But even still, I would have pulled these out because they stood out so much for what I view as the levels of pulling up to the next series. David, we are pretty much out of time.